Hello, wonderful world of the internet. It is I, the man with the red hat, inspired by this very infamous novel right here. From the title of this video, I am going to elaborate in fine detail about my life story, why I decided to write this crazy gargantuan mosaic that probably only less than 1% of the population cares about knowing. I've been really pondering and thinking before I decided to construct this video about me contemplating what exactly I'm supposed to do with my life, what I'm really supposed to do, and give a little bit of my testimony and explain why I feel a little bit out of place. And Holden Caulfield is a person who feels out of place very, very often. For the past couple of years, I've actually attended 4 different colleges, and in Holden Caulfield fashion, thought that all of them were phony, and thought that all of them are completely worthless and didn't help myself in any possible way. Over the years, I've developed affinities and passions, interests, experiences that have all culminated in a really crazy and wild series that I call the Absolutely Fine series. And, one of the themes being Catcher in the Rye-esque. Although, there is actually a lot more to the series besides an angsty boy who cries against the world. There are actually a plethora of topics that you wouldn't expect in this series. And I will go over in detail what each part of the series elaborates on. The series is called the Absolutely Fine series. The first book is called The Absolutely Fine Catcher. Not very surprising, based off of the very infamous novel, The Catcher in the Rye. It goes over the story of a poor boy who went to an open mic night, and he couldn't perform because his playing partner Desmond didn't show up. So he ended up leaving the restaurant and miraculously found a homeless man that was waiting on the bench. And so the story goes over the friendship between the teenage boy and the homeless man. And speaking of the homeless man, the second book of the series is called The Absolutely Fine Beggar. So, The Absolutely Fine Beggar goes into a deeper lore of the homeless man. And he is a very, very interesting figure. He was a boy way back in the 1950s. And he was actually part of the civil rights movement in some way, shape, or form. Which leads up to the third book, The Absolutely Fine Past. And based on the cover, yes, those are in reference to the civil rights protesters that were part of the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s that helped bring in racial equality. And this is the crazy thing about the series. The premise of the story is continually changing, and the usage of the word "the absolutely fine" is used in different contexts. After that, we go into the Absolutely Fine Off-Gridders. This refers to the subplot of these 2 teenagers that go into a log cabin and spend the time there in hopes of trying to find peace and tranquility that they couldn't find in a modern-day lifestyle. I won't spoil too much, and you're probably wondering what is up with that log cabin going into fire. When you read the book, you'll understand. Now, the next one is called The Absolutely Fine Detective. And this one is the extremely thriller-based novel in my series. The woman in that picture is named Daisy Welter, who that is actually a picture that the detective found in the glove box of a car. Don't want to spoil too much about it. The next one is the Absolutely Fine Reporter. And yes, that is actually a picture of Caitlin Collins, who is the CNN journalist that is probably a robot in disguise. Not saying that I'm conservative, though. I mean, I could have honestly put Lindsey Graham on the cover. So yeah, I don't think that I'm some kind of like conservative nutcrack. But anyway, yes, this one goes. It's a really pretty much a satirical take on the journalism industry, and what's really funny is how she worked with this guy named Donald Wazowski, who's really an entertainer / journalist. He's not really a real journalist, and really just wants to get the darkest stories out there to get as many views as he could. So she ended up quitting the company and became her own independent journalist. The next one is the Absolutely Fine Objectivist. That title comes from the very infamous philosopher Ayn Rand. And Ayn Rand is a very controversial figure. I used to be a big fan of her, but then after educating myself on different philosophies and seeing the contradictions within her philosophy, I'm totally not a fan of her. Honestly, at this point, she's kind of a joke. But there was a time when I was really fond of her ideas, and she ends up educating this, what you'd call the next Elon Musk, or the next Jeff Bezos. His name is Marin Swan. Marin Swan being a huge intellectual and has an invention to cure drug addiction. So Ayn Rand negotiates and coordinates with Marin to help fund and invest in his idea, while also educating Marin on her virtues of selfishness. And she's very pro-capitalist, so you can imagine that someone who wants to be the next Elon Musk, I think they'd work well with a guy, with a philosopher who's pro-capitalist. And then the next one is the Absolutely Fine Crime. I don't want to elaborate too much on that one. I consider that to be the big climax of the story. We'll just keep it at that. The next one is the Absolutely Fine Cartoons. And this one I really love discussing. This is actually a graphic comic. It's actually a graphic novel. Really, it's the premise of the story is in reference to Total Drama Island. And if you don't know Total Drama Island, that show it's a Canadian cartoon that has a bunch of contestants that are trying to win $1 million. So it's like a cartoon reality show. So I took that premise and made something similar in my graphic novel. And each character is actually in reference to a show. So some examples include this anthropomorphic wolf, whose name is Wolfman, and he's actually in reference to Scooby-Doo. There is actually a really funny comic where Wolfman and Scooby-Doo, well, I call him Dooby-Doo in my comic, but Dooby-Doo and Wolfman are both sitting in a chair that is in resemblance to The Apprentice, which is the show that Donald Trump used to host. And Shaggy, whom I drew in this comic, is the one that is trying to judge who would be the next apprentice for the Scooby-Doo gang. So that's one example. And to all the bronies out there, here is a picture of what I'd argue is one of the big villains named Distort. And she is this black demonic pony who is really what I consider to be the Thanos of the entire series. She is, chaotic evil, extremely malicious. As I continue elaborating on the story, you'll understand how important this character actually is. as the story goes along. The next story is the Absolutely Fine Bible. The Absolutely Fine Bible, from the cover, it kind of looks like Twilight Sparkle from My Little Pony. Now, just to be clear, this isn't trying to overwrite the actual Bible, nor is it trying to add on to it. This is a purely fictional tale, so it's not meant to be a prophecy of the second coming or really anything. It's really just a fictional story. But the story is Clarity, who is the golden pony in that cover. She's one of the goddesses that wants to create her own universe. And she tries to negotiate with other gods, examples being the Joker god, who's like the god of the clowns, or the pineapple god, who's the god of the pineapples. Yeah, there's a bunch of random gods. But like, she tries to create this universe until she gets the help of the Judeo-Christian God from the actual Bible. Distort and Clarity are actually sisters. Clarity obviously being the good sister. And this one is the wildest book, let me tell you. Like, I managed to add like Adolf Hitler into this story. There's even a chapter in this book called The Book of Hitler. And let's not get into that rabbit hole too much. But as we fast forward, we go to the Absolutely Fine Pink Beret Girl. And this is actually in reference to the January 6th invasion that happened in 2021, when the Trump supporters were trying to like overwrite the 2020 election. And the Pink Beret Girl, she is actually one individual that invaded the Capitol. And I actually managed to input her as a character. Now, there's a really, really, really fun twist about how like she was actually there to try to investigate the whereabouts of the Stort, and that is really her main objective. In reality, though, she really is just another Trump supporter who idiotically invaded the Capitol. That's kind of just I'm adding like a conspiracy theory to it. But there's that, and then the next one is the Absolutely Fine Poker. And this takes place in Las Vegas, which makes sense. I'm in poker, Las Vegas. And this one is a really, really... the cover shows the Joker god, and he ends up causing turmoil in Las Vegas. One of the characters you'll find is the infamous Gus Hansen, who is a poker player known for his very notoriously aggressive style. I even have his book, Every Hand Revealed, which documented all the hands he played in this Australian tournament that he ended up winning. But he's known for his very ballsy style. He becomes a character in the story. Next one on the list is the Absolutely Fine Clowns. The most bonkers book in the series. The Clowns refers to these group of clowns called the Winchesters, located in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And there's a whole history about how the Joker ended up creating the land. And there is a very interesting mad scientist named Mr. Raspy who made a dome around the school. And the Winchesters are there to try to figure out what's going on with Mr. Raspy. Honestly, the most bonkers idea I ever came up with. If you were to tell me how I came up with this idea, I'd honestly just say that I was just dreaming and I just had an epiphany. The next one is the Absolutely Fine Golfer. The Absolutely Fine Golfer is I think it's the most creatively written story out of all the books. Believe it or not, the book is actually written in James Joyce style. And I know that Ulysses, which is James Joyce's magnum opus, is a very divisive book. I'm actually a fan of it. I don't know how you think of that, but I personally had a very fun time reading the book. But I tried replicating a book that was pretty similar to this, except very, very, very miniature in size, and hopefully a lot more digestible than what Ulysses is. But this goes over a relationship that Rose has, and Rose being the character in the cover of that book, and goes over their thoughts and their minds. And in this book, James Joyce is actually a ghost who ends up going into people's minds and creates wild dreams in their minds. The next book is The Absolutely Fine Space. And looking at the ship, yes, that is coming from Rick and Morty, the show from Adult Swim. But we go very classic science fiction kind of story. A scientist named Sylvain McAllister, and you could imagine Rick Sanchez, pretty much like the same personality as Rick Sanchez, and there's a joke about how basically they're trying to make a rip-off of Rick and Morty. So really, classic Rick and Morty adventure. Next one is The Absolutely Fine Filipino. I mean, just look at me. So the next one on the list, we get The Absolutely Fine Revolution. And this is going to document the very wild, disastrous island that the story created called Disarray. And this is where a bunch of villains have accumulated and lived in this island to hopefully start a mission to take over the world. Which leads us to the very, very, very last book, The Absolutely Fine War. The Absolutely Fine War is, from the cover, Jesus. And Jesus does the second coming in hopes of saving the world from its imminent doom. So that is really a huge overview, huge layout of the entire story. And so here it is. That is the entire list of the Absolutely Fine series. And one of the questions you're probably wondering is, why did this random guy who's wearing a red hat based on A Catcher in the Rye, why did he take all this time to basically write all this? Shouldn't he be like trying to find like a day job, to pay the bills and make a real career of himself that has actual stability? Like, what's the point of writing this weird and wild series? Well, as you get to know me, I have honestly tried so many different professions, going from an engineer to an electrician to journalist to really whatever, like a chess teacher, a teacher in general, economics, business. I mean, honestly, I've tried so many different things. And it comes to a point where you honestly just don't have any other choice but to pursue what you're passionate about and try to entrepreneurialize it. Because I honestly got this advice from so many other people. But just given how the job market is right now, as you all know, I mean, you can just go through YouTube and just see so many people struggling to find jobs in 2026. Like, it's becoming to the point where someone has to apply for over 1,000 jobs just to get one offer. And that's not even a guarantee. So, I don't really have any skills or qualifications for really any other job in the job market. I mean, that's another thing too. Like, even if I did have a degree, I'm competing against hundreds of other people that have a degree and much more experience and much more qualifications than I have, which is just a degree. So this is really where I'm coming from, is that I honestly just don't have any other choice but to show myself to the world what I have to offer. And what I have to offer is entertainment. And hopefully you find that me elaborating on this weird series has been a very, very entertaining watch. And yes, if you're curious, like, I am also autistic as well. So I'm also on the spectrum too. I mean, I feel like I don't have to explain that though. I think if you just look at that, yeah, this guy is very autistic. I really hope that, you continue to follow my journey. I'm trying to learn entrepreneurship myself. It's kind of a huge struggle, but it's really a journey that I want to take, given just the situation right now and given the fact that I don't have any other options. But hopefully you're open to what I have to offer. So I'm going to leave it at that. And remember, if you don't subscribe, if you don't like, then you're a big fat phony, as he says.